This is it. This is another episode of Friday Night Live. I've got Sean, I've got myself, and I've got some live guests that you are not allowed to know because it's a massive secret. But you know what? Today is very, very exciting. Today is just not about Friday Night Live. Producer Ryan has told me that this is our 25th episode. We started this through the thick of COVID, and guess what? I believe we're God's favorite children. We survived. And
Absolutely.
We're okay. We're safe. And I hope all of you have been too. Now, tonight's episode is very, very exciting because not only is the 25th episode, we've got a live audience here. If you'd like to be a live audience, let us know. And we'd love to have you on the show.
Ticket entries are on sale this month and they're only $99 a head.
That's it. That's it. Cheers to that. We'll do $99. Hey. That wasn't intentional, but I'll take that.
It worked.
It worked. So guys, today is part 2 of last week's episode. So we were talking about successful investing. And what we really wanted to talk about last week was the challenges that people come up with, the things that scare people. What if I don't get a 10 in? What if this happens? What if interest rates rise? If you haven't watched that episode, I'm not going to repeat myself. Go back and watch it. It is an amazing episode. It'll give you a lot of value. And again, guys, like I always say, leave us some comments, leave us some feedback. I don't care if you make fun of us. It doesn't matter. Some sort of engagement is engagement. Now, if you're going to engage, be positive, ask us questions because, you know, there's only so many things I can think of. But to all our subscribers, to all our viewers, thank you again for supporting us so much. This is our 25th episode. And you know what? I reckon we should do this out loud on a 500th episode. Mm-hmm. Actually, you know what? 250.
All right.
We got to do a big live party, like a live, get everyone live audience, like maybe do it on a boat. I don't know.
Actually, the boat idea sounds great.
Pretty good. And we can get knackered after that or
Sure.
before that or whatever we want to do, essentially, because it's our podcast.
True.
So tonight, guys, without further ado, without me blabbering on and rabbiting on, let's talk about successful investing part 2. So today is about property selection, Sean. And what we're going to break down this conversation into is understanding property selection based on price, based price/strategy, location, because your strategy has a lot to do with what your starting point is, what your borrowing capacity is, how much deposit you have, and what you already have in the bank. You know, Some people are blank canvases. They've got nothing, which is okay. They've got to start somewhere. And some people have a few properties, some good, some bad, some ugly, but so on and so forth. The second thing we're going to talk about is location, the importance of buying in a good location. A lot of people love hot spotting, which I think is horseshit. Don't censor that because that wasn't a swear word. It really is.
Yeah, true.
Because 70% of capital growth or rental growth is because of macro factors.
Correct.
It is, that extra 30% growth comes from selecting the right lane and the angle and all of that. But 70%, mate, if Sydney went up, so did Mount Druitt, so did Bella Vista, so did Dural, so did Double Bay, so did Vaucluse, so did Campbelltown, so did everything else.
Yep.
Some places more than other. And that's what I want to talk about. What makes that extra special recipe? Because I know for a fact, people who listen to this sort of stuff just don't want a 70% upside. They want 100, 120% upside.
Yep.
The next thing we're going to talk about the importance for design and buying property that is future-proof. What is functional design? And again, when I talk about design here, I'm not telling you to build a house inspired from a Balenciaga fashion show.
I think this is your forte, Kesh. You know, getting the design elements on a house. Before you know it, you'll come up with your own Hermes house, I think.
I think so too. Like
with Louis Vuitton flooring and a Balenciaga roof.
Don't get me started. My man Virgil, I love you, man. God bless your soul. Rest in peace. Next thing, for me, main thing with design is, are we buying real estate that is going to appeal to people aesthetically? But more than that, is it functional? Does it work for the post-COVID economy where a lot of people, a lot of professionals are now working from home, even though there might be some hybrid models, so on and so forth, working from home. And the next thing about functionality that a lot of people forget is a lot of people buying real estate today are people generally who weren't born here. The first-time buyers grant, so on and so forth. So they have their connections overseas. They often have mum and dad visit and so on and so forth. So they need a little bit of space, that little spare room where, you know, they can accommodate that, you know. And then next we want to understand the 3 basic plays when it comes to property selection. are you going for a growth play? Are you going for a cash flow play? Or are you going for a deleverage play?
Yep.
Right? And we got to really understand that. So, Sean, off to you. The first thing I want to talk about is how important is it for people before they even start to select property to be very, very clear on their borrowing capacity, their deposits, and their ability to save?
In terms of how important, it's of utmost importance. Number one importance, I reckon.
Because I want to, this is a serious conversation because I see a lot of people don't take action because their idea for good property is far beyond their imagination. Mm-hmm. They're reluctant to go into state. They stay in this still state. So just if you could like talk to our audience a little bit about price and budgets, and everyone has a different starting point. Yesterday, in fact, you were explaining something really nice to me about, leaving $100,000 in the bank account. And, so is there a problem if I'm starting from 500 grand, or should I wait till I only have $850,000 or $1 million?
Great. So this is something that we've had conversations on many, many times over many years. A lot of people that have borrowing capacities, let's be honest, the average Australian family, even if you're in a high income bracket or if you're in a low income bracket, has a specific maximum borrowing capacity, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say for a lower income family, if you've got a borrowing capacity of 500 grand, you have to just be honest with yourself to think of the fact that, okay, how fast is my income going to grow faster than the average rate? How fast is my borrowing capacity realistically going to get to 800,000? And if you're really honest with yourself with that first question, you'll realize that if it's going to take you 5 years to get to a borrowing capacity of 700 or 800,000, you are 10 times better off deploying whatever borrowing capacity you have today into the marketplace, letting it do some work. And here's the best part. In the next 5 years, your income is going to reach where it was going to reach anyway. So what gets a lot of people stuck is figuring out that you're waiting for the perfect time to pounce and buy property because you need to be ready. The one thing is that the market's never really waiting around for you. The world's never really waiting around for you. The world's always making progress. I had this one client, actually, it's a really funny story.
Share with us.
They really hated debt, okay? So these guys hate debt more than anyone else you've ever known.
So they don't have a mortgage, they don't
have a mortgage, don't have a car loan, everything was bought in cash. Decent income, when I say decent income, household income of about 170 grand. They're renting and they've got a good amount of savings. So mid-30s family.
That's my face at all.
and guess how much they had in savings when I met them? They had about 550,000 in cash savings.
Just sitting for CBA's benefit to leverage that.
Exactly, CBA specifically. So, so they were sitting there with 550,000.
That's somebody guessing right.
550,000 in cash. And their logic was, we really don't like debt. And you know what? We don't mind living in Blacktown. We're only about $200,000 away from buying our $750,000 house outright in cash. So why don't we might as well just save for 3 more years and get there? And what's really funny? The year that I had this conversation with them was about 2018 when it was a dip.
Oh,
the difference between 2018 and 2021, if anyone here would like to take a guess in terms of cash uplift on property or percentage uplift on property.
Let's give him a second. Come on, guys.
Take a quick guess.
No, that was the wrong one.
If you guess 5%, that was wrong. Take a next guess. 50%, you'd be close. Let's do another guess. 180% wrong. Let's do another guess. 3% wrong. Let's do another guess. you need to get the right one. Okay, yes. Whoever guessed 78%, you've done really well. So let's look at this now.
I love that. 78% specific.
So 750 grand.
Can you do me a favor?
Yep.
Can you do me a favor
Yep.
before you do this? Because we often don't tell people what we're doing.
Yep.
So I'm going to hit the record button. Now you go for it. Because we can send this footage to Ryan.
Sure. Great. So what we're actually doing is we're saying, okay, let's say that $750,000 really nice house that they wanted to get would have had an uplift of 78%. Now, 78% was across the board with high-end real estate, low-end real estate. Let's just say on average it went up a very basic 50%. So your $750,000 asset that you wanted to purchase in cash has now become worth 1.125 million,
So they're
which is
still
very
saving.
believable for good homes in Blacktown, right? Blacktown City Council could have been Parkley or Quakers Hill as well.
Quackers.
Quackers Hill, yeah, where sales are comfortably hitting above 1.1.
They are actually pretty surprising.
So the family ended up in 3 years saving 750, but guess what? They're still short because the market has actually outperformed them. Now, with $550,000 utilized correctly in 2018, I don't even want to really begin to say what your potential could have gained you, because that would be almost depressing to see those figures today in terms of growth.
That is true. So you understand. I think we got to do a whole episode and just leverage. I think that'll be part 3 of this. We'll actually do a workshop, a whole video, screen recorded, to show them how leverage works. I'd love for you to do that for the audience so they understand how.
All right, my pleasure.
How that'll work. But that's true, right? You got to deploy capital no matter where you are. If you're going to increase your income, great. So you'll have a little bit more to play with than just sitting on the fence and playing ball. Now, the second is location. Now, this is what I think of location. No matter what style of property you build, no matter how nice it is, no matter what the aspect, north, south, east, west, on Mars, I don't know, facing up.
We will be the first investment crew to support people investing in Mars. You heard it here first.
Elon, give us a shout out.
I'm taking expressions of interest right now. The acres are going for only about $1,000 a pop.
Ethereum.
1,000 Ethereum a pop.
Shiba Inu. That's what Elon would want. Yeah. Riding around some Tesla Rovers. But coming back to this, so location, right? So you can build whatever house you want. You can build any style, any fixtures, any finishes. But one thing you can never, ever change about your house is the location. And that makes a massive difference. Now, in my understanding, especially in the freestanding home sector, you know what, to be honest, whether it's freestanding homes, apartments, townhouses, or whatever it might be, location really matters. And what I mean by location is what are the amenities, the facilities that are available to the local community living there. And more so since, like, people living in Bondi, let me just give you an example, right? So people living in Bondi, when they were locked in and they could only go 5 kilometer radius, they had a very different experience to someone living in Penrith, for example. And again, there's no good or bad, but you went for a walk, I don't know, on the street, on a footpath. Someone on Bondi went to the beach through COVID, right? So it was very, very different within that 5 kilometer radius.
A little bit of classes in there.
There is, but there was an experience. But what beats that, and I've seen that happen again and again and again, is master plan communities. So master plan communities, for whatever reason, are designed much better. There's a lot of consideration done around sporting fields, walking pathways, cycling pathways, and people think that there's no value. People always think the value is just in their house.
Yep.
The reality is the value of your house depends on its surrounds.
Spot on.
Brick is a brick, mate. Like whether you bought a brick for $3 and put it in Vaucluse, or you bought a brick and put it in Blacktown, it's a brick. But what that brick feels like and what that brick attracts is very different in a different location. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to go live in the eastern suburbs, the northern beaches, but
Blacktown's is a good place to live, actually. If you ask a lot of people that live there, it's quite.
I rep the Hillshire Council, brother. You know how that.
Those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. So but we've got a very passionate Blacktown supporter in our office.
We do.
I won't name names.
But saying that,
but if you're listening, you are the man.
But I really think there's a massive difference. So let me give you a small example, right? So talking about newer estates, let's go back a little bit. Like I'm going back now, good 7, 8, 10 years, right? While speaking of Blacktown, there was a new estate in Blacktown called Stanhope Gardens that was established, right? They had the little bit of shops, they had the community swimming pools and the gyms and the parks and so on and so forth. And somehow today, when you look at OG Blacktown, which is close to the station, close to the hospital, properties there are far cheaper than buying in Stanhope. Now, part 2 of Blacktown, and I'm going to give you an example of exactly that location, right? I don't want people to think like, oh, he's talking about one specific location. Let's talk about Blacktown Council and let's come to the ponds. Still Blacktown Council, an extension, and then Tallawong. So what did they do in the ponds? They put walking paths close to the shops. Why are people today willing to buy 300 to 350 meter square blocks for $1.4 to $1.6 million in ponds, but are not willing to spend $900,000 on a 700 meter square block in Blacktown. Now, I'm not going to answer this for you because I want you to figure this out. Why is this happening? Now, let me give you another example of Blacktown.
Yep.
Marsden Park versus Quakers Field. Marsden Park.
Quakers Field.
Quakers Hill. Right, mate. Quakers Hill. Right? No fields. But again, what is so special about the Alara estate that they did? I'm just giving you an example. There are multiple examples of this, but
So true.
But what has happened that old Quakers could not deliver? That today people are willing to spend 1.6 million dollars in Marsden Park, no train station, not close to anything. It's a pain in the ass to get there in peak traffic.
Yep.
Yet people have preferred to live there.
Yep.
Let's go into the hillside. Borkum Hills versus Bella Vista Waters. Yay, yay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I have an amazing example to share with you. I was having this conversation with a client yesterday. And he was talking about location a lot. He's like, oh, location this, location that. I said, look, let's compare two different suburbs. I asked him, have you ever been to dinner in Harris Park? Right? He goes, yeah, I love dinner from Harris Park, you know. He happened to be from the Indian subcontinent, so he knew what he was talking about. He wasn't just guessing it, right? You better hit a sound effect there.
We're restarting this episode. No, I'm just joking. Right. So what was his experience like?
So he loved his Harris Park meals and everything. I said, you know, it's such a good place, right? It's super close to the hospital. You're a walking distance away from Sydney's second biggest CBD, right? You've got great schools nearby, a couple selective nearby. You've got obviously access to the motorway. You're about 20 minutes to the heart of the city. do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes. Keep going. Oh my God, I'm going to get killed
This
one
is
day.
such a good episode. I can't even wait to
I'm
be
going to get fucking killed one day.
Don't edit any of this out, producer Ryan. Don't edit anything. It needs to be as candid as it is right now. Okay, so I said it's got all these things, right? Ticks all these boxes. And I said, now you have a choice. Would you like to live with your family in Harris Park or North Kellyville?
Yeah.
I said, or North Kellyville.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh yeah, I'd like to live with my family if I had a choice in North Kellyville. I said, why? He goes, oh, you know, like well-rated schools, good amenities. I said, hang on.
High bell rating, not a bush.
No. I said, hang on. North Kellyville has no schools. There's one that literally just got completed. It's got nothing there. There's no good schools in North Kellyville at all. There's no train station. There's hardly any bus routes. The roads in and out of North Kellyville are the shittest in the city.
Brother, but it's the hills.
No. So I get it, right? I said it's the worst.
Yeah.
So why do you think people are still willing to live there instead of Harris Park? And that's where he paused. That's where you're stumped. I said there's literally no metro there. There is no schools. You're not close to the highway. Traffic's pretty bad. Shit roads. But why do people live there? And it all boils down to two things. It's because you want to be associated as a family that comes from North Kellyville as opposed to being associated as a family that comes from Harris Park. People buy real estate for two reasons. Circle of influence and circle of affluence.
Mate,
It's as simple as this.
I agree.
Like I was at Point Piper the other day, right? I was going for a beautiful stroll.
Nice. That deserves a little. Dream.
And
Billionaires row.
and I was looking at this house that was under construction. I could see down maybe about 40 meters into the ground. That's how heavy the piering had to go.
So you understand, Sean's like 7 feet 9 inches. For him, what 40 meters is to him?
I'm not 7 feet 9 inches. My dongle is.
40 meters for him would be like 300 meters for us, just giving you context. Actually, no. 40 meters for him might be like 20 meters for us because he's higher up. Sorry, I got that wrong.
But it's good you picked up on that. That's pretty neat. So yeah, and I was looking at this place. I totally forgot why I was even talking about that. But yeah, the roads in and out of the joint were horrible. They were trash. Yeah. They were really hilly. If you had a bad hill assist, if you had a bad hill assist on your car would probably end up in the harbour. Bad roads, trees all over the place, super humid. But it's Billionaires Row. People live there because they don't want a train station nearby. They don't want 100 different, students jumping off the bus and giving them, a bit of a running of the muck. Yeah.
Sure, I would be pretty pissed off, bro. Like if I was living in my $60 million house and people were like screaming and shouting and making noise. But I agree. As long as I was doing it in my crib, that's cool. No, I completely agree. So guys, long story short, location does matter. Where you can add value to location, and that Harris Park example always gets me laughing, is
But why was it so funny? You have to tell us what was going to get you in trouble. You have to say it. If it gets really bad, we'll blur it. We'll bleep it.
I'm not going down this one. It's very dangerous. I'm skipping out on that, right? Like next minute, I'm in Harris Park and they're going to stone me to death. Or something. So I got to, but you know what? You're never going to catch me there. So don't worry about it. Next thing comes to design. And I'm going to screen record here because, Ryan, I'm not going to miss us out. Now, I'm going to give guys an example of a property, a 3-bedroom property actually, in Seven Hills versus North Kellyville we were talking about. So this is a property that has recently sold, 3-bed, 1-bath, no car. It's a fibro property. So there's going to be a screen recording of this. Fibro, whatever, rubbish property. And the kitchen's horrible. The living room's a joke. And basically, this is a DA-approved site for someone to knock down and put 2 duplexes on. Right?
What?
Yeah, I get whatever, they're going to cut the tree, whatever it might be, right? But the reality is this is more about the floor plan, right? So this floor plan, if you really pay attention, you enter the house, you've got a lounge room. On your left, you've got, I don't know if I can draw on this. Let's see if I can get real fancy while recording. So you enter from here, and then pretty much all your rooms are segregated. So if you're going hard in this room, like the noise is sort of like going everywhere.
How hard are you going though?
I mean, like gaming, or office meetings or whatever it might be. And then you come back here, you've got a really exclusive kitchen. You've got a dining room, a laundry in your dining room. So you're washing your clothes and plates together. And then you've got access back to the yard, right? So that is not functional real estate. Now, to give you an understanding, there was a point where both these properties were selling at similar price, maybe 50K here and there. The average rent in Seven Hills is about $440 per week.
Right. Let's factor in everything. They're probably apartments as well.
Yeah, $440 per week, average across Seven Hills. And the rental growth in Seven Hills has been only 3.5% over 5 years.
Pretty standard.
Yep. Now, let me go to my other example of this is a property that sold in North Kellyville. Again, a 3-bedroom property, much smaller block of land. That's what the finishes look like. So it's nothing crazy fancy or anything.
Yeah, what was the sale price here?
So it sold for about 1.34 million.
What?
Much smaller block, but internally, if you look at the floor plan, it is far more functional. And this is just... Guys, this is for educational purposes. So a lot of people go, I'm going to buy the older house and knock it down and put a new thing. Why am I reinvesting into the property if it's not going to add substantial value? So if I'm buying a block of land for $1 million, I'm going to spend another $1 million. Is it going to be worth 3?
Yeah, no.
Right? And what is my upside, or am I better off buying something for, say, 1.2, set and forget? Because the median rent in this place right now is $750 a week.
Ouch.
The rents have increased by 45% in the last 5 years. Almost in the last year alone, rents in North Kellyville have gone up by 18.5%, right? For houses. So when you enter, you've got a little bit of a living room, which could easily be a home office or anything else. You've got your master bedroom, walk-in robe, ensuite. You've got a nice kitchen, bench top, dining, lounge, outdoor al fresco. The other bedrooms are segregated in the back. This could easily be a home office, a separate laundry in line with your bathroom. You don't want dirty laundry while you're eating dinner, like in the other bedroom. So again, what do you think? If I buy a property today, my plan to hold this property is easily 15, 20 years. I'm not here to buy and sell. Like the cost of buying and selling real estate is just dumb. Unless you're a developer who can go and buy 100 acres and subdivide it and hold it for just mums and dads, you're much more better off holding real estate long term than just going and buying some shit piece of real estate, right? So in my head, I'm going, okay, what floor plan would appeal to more people? If there were 100 empty houses in this suburb, God forbid, with another economic crisis or, like COVID turns into another Pokemon, they launch new versions of it every week. What would people actually like to rent? And what would you like to live in? And often where people make a massive mistake when it comes to design, when it comes to selecting your properties is not working out the functionality. If it's not good enough for you, why will it be good enough for anyone else? And if you're going to attract a more low socio sort of tenant in an area, how is a poor person, and I'm not being classist here, how is a poor person supposed to give the landlord $50 more? How is someone who's on Centrelink payments or has 6 kids and as a single mum supposed to, go to an auction and outbid someone to increase prices? Because your house, at the end of the day, a very great person told me this, is only worth what one is willing to pay for. Right?
Yep.
And we gotta get this right. A lot of people are just buying for the sake of buying. A lot of people are picking up a lot of wrong real estate. And I can tell you this, guys, I don't care whether it's Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Broken Hill, wherever you're going, don't go to Broken Hill. But guys, there is a massive difference in good real estate within the same suburb as well versus bad real estate. And when we come back from the subscription break, which we really need to do, is we're going to talk about a growth play, a cash flow play, and a deleverage play. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Friday Night Live. This is your subscription break. Don't forget, this is your time to subscribe. Give us some love, give us support. Hit the bell icon. You've got 5, 4, 3. Come on, push the button. 2, 1. I'll see you in a second. Back from our subscription break. Guys, you had a chance. If you haven't subscribed, if you haven't hit the bell icon, if you haven't left us a comment, you're not allowed to do anymore. It's only in that subscription break. But before I continue, I want to give out a shout out to our main sponsor, Bella Vista Hotel, who's been kind enough to allow us to come in and record our 25th episode.
They're actually a really good sponsor. They've been so supportive.
They have. They actually have.
They've got amazing equipment that they've bought just for us.
I don't know about that, but maybe we're the only ones taking advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Kiss FM, here we come. But, mate, it's a great place. They've got great wood fire oven pizzas. They've got amazing drinks. Friday, Saturday is always off.
Fireballs are always a fun thing to try.
They are. Again, drink responsibly, eat well, but it's a pretty cool place to hang out. In fact, Sunday brunch here is pretty good. They've got mad offers. So if you ever want to do a party, you want to do anything, Bella Vista Hotel could be the place.
In fact, we ran into a client today out of nowhere as well. In fact, we were talking about a growth investment suburb
in Melbourne,
which is a really, really suburb you can't miss. If you want to know more about it, get in touch and find us on the link over here. Send Kesh a personal DM because he has helped a lot of people already make a lot of money here. Now, this is a very serious topic. We're talking about this growth suburb because we're hanging out with another industry expert as well. And a client just comes walking up and guess what? He happened to have real estate in that suburb. But because he's already an experienced investor, his previous suburb was in a location where today is official boomtown, Logan. So he's hit the double jackpot. So if you do want to know more about how to really take this technical jargon and put it into real life results, hit us up. We'd be really happy to help you out.
There we go. Listen, man, I've always told people, if you're going to come and work with us, we will welcome you with open arms, but only come if you really seriously want to take your finances to the next level. If you're someone who's going to sit on the side fences, you're going to get splinters in your ass, don't waste your or my time, respectfully. But if you're really serious, and again, this is not about going and just buying real estate, but if you just want to bounce ideas and understand what's possible for you, because I'll tell you what, I sit down with so many people. Sean, you sit down with so many people that think they can't do anything and they can actually do a lot. And you'd be so surprised to know what you can do. So if you haven't done anything, reach out to us. Get a free financial health check. What that means is someone from the team will sit down with you.
They'll pull out the stethoscope, put it on your chest, go, yep,
on
that heart sounds like gold.
and we'll help you for that. Let's give the JR team a shout out. Yay. Now coming back to our topic.
Let's give JR Financial a shout out as well.
Yeah.
Crickets.
Oh, wait.
Just kidding. They're actually the highest rated financial organization in the country.
They are. Aussie Home Loan, here we come for you, mate.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, coming back to property, we were talking about property selection before the break. We talked about price. We talked about location. We talked about the importance of design, functionality. And again, I shared a little bit of an example. I'm not saying that's the ideal example, but I would just wanted to draw a comparison between two 3-bedroom floor plans and what works and what doesn't work. And I know there's going to be a haggler saying, oh, the other one didn't have parking. Exactly my point. You know, like if you're comparing 3 bedrooms, like, oh, compare 3 bedrooms with the parking against a 3-bedroom with the parking. Because the first example we had didn't have any parking.
There was actually no parking garage in that house?
No, not even a carport.
What?
Because people living in such houses might I will get killed.
Well, they can travel to work by horse cart, right?
That is for me. That is just mean. I don't mean to be horrible. I am very, very sorry for such jokes. I really held myself in with the Harris Park example.
Well, the good thing is that the guys that are in those houses are most probably close to being mortgage free. So if they're mortgage free, they've sold it for about 1.1 whatever. Great, they've got $1 million. What can they buy now? Nothing.
Okay, all right, we're coming back to this. So we were talking about functionality, and you want to buy future-proof real estate that appeals to a lot of people. And again, I'm a big believer, Sean, and you would agree with this. When you're in your building phase,
Acquisition phase or house building phase?
No, acquisitions phase.
Oh yeah.
You want to I hate to have to put more money in to improve that property, because when I'm building my properties, I want to buy a property and at least know for a fact that I don't need to put any more money to improve this, to increase rents or values or whatever.
Yeah, almost set and forget.
Set and forget at least for 10 years, because every 10 years, your properties need anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000 worth of work just to bring it up to speed, to rejig. But I'm happy to reinvest that money provided that property is made equity.
Correct.
Right? I'm not happy to draw down equity from my home to reinvest into that property to improve it. I'm happy to use the equity from my home to buy multiple properties if I need to, right? Correct. I'd rather take, if you told me, Kesh, you got to spend 70K now to just get a tenant in or whatever it might be, and mate, I don't want to do that. I'd rather take that 70K, borrow another for 450 and buy a $525,000 property or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? So again, in my building phase, in my acquisition phase, I don't want to have to reinvest into my investment properties. Plus, I want to buy future-proof real estate.
Yep.
And attract a more affluent client base, because I want to be a landlord, not a slumlord. Coming back to
that's a very good saying. I like that actually. Yeah. We should make a sticker out of that, producer Ryan.
I want to be a landlord.
I want to be a landlord, not a slumlord.
That's it, mate. That's it.
That's a nice one. I like it.
Now, the 3 types of properties that we talk about that we want to get: gold, check, and deleverage. Gold being a more growth-oriented property. Check being a more cash flow-oriented property. And deleverage being something that you pretty much pick up as a project for 12 to 14 months, put a substantial amount of cash, borrow money at 7, 8, 9%, and turn it around fairly quickly. Like a small-scale development, land subdivision, joint venture to build townhouses, apartments, whatever it might be, right? But saying that, Sean, give us great examples that you've seen that have worked out to be at every price point, because people think growth properties have to be in the millions. But can you give us a small example of someone who maybe would have made a purchase circa 450 to 550?
Yep.
And then give us an example of 650 to 850, and then give us an example of $1 million plus for a growth.
Great question. So let's look at all 3 examples. So I'll give you an example of a suburb deal that was done. How about I give you all 3 suburbs done within about the last 4 years?
Yeah, last 5 years.
Within the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
So in fact, within the last 3 to 4 years for some,
Yep.
but let's say last 4 years comfortably, right? So last 4 years, we're looking at a purchase of 450. So someone who thought that, hey, you know what? I don't really have the best borrowing capacity, but I just need to get into the market.
Everyone starts from somewhere.
Exactly. Now, what we're looking at is 450,000. Today, that market that we're looking at that used to be 450,000, these are markets like Pollara. These are markets like Logan Reserve. These are markets like Park Ridge. Going for very comfortably around the $650,000 market. So that's a $200,000 uplift on a $450,000 purchase, which is roughly about 44% of original purchase price. Okay, 44%.
Wow. So imagine what they have actually got in the initial investment, because they've only put in 75K or 80K.
Yeah, we can calculate. So their deposits would have been around, all up for a 450 purchase, all up would have been, including the stamp duty, actually $80,000.
If that.
If that. So 200 grand on your 80,000, you've made 250% return on cash.
250%. And what did CBA?
CBA gave us 0.25% probably. So let's look at another suburb right now. Okay, so that was what I would call affordable range. Okay, so affordable range is your C plus, B plus sort of style, right? Now we're going to the
That's 650.
the lower end A grade sort of stuff where you know it's middle income to high income earners that wouldn't mind getting to these sort of suburbs. Back then, 750 was quite decent considering all of Australia. So I'll give you another suburb as an example. Let's take
Do you know what I can think
let's
of?
look at something like Strathpine, right?
Yeah.
Strathpine has had an uplift of original purchase of about 650. We're looking at about 900,000 today.
So can you tell our audience Strathpine city and suburb?
So
City and state.
So Strathpine ends up being in the greater Brisbane city. And it ends up being in the... so Brisbane's a really easy city to explain because there's mainly just your 5 major satellite hubs. You've got, Brisbane City Council. The whole north side is called pretty much the Moreton Bay Council. South side's your Logan Council.
Yeah.
East is Redland Bay, and then west is Ipswich, right? So this happens to be in the Moreton Bay Council. So roughly you're looking at about being within 20 to 22 minutes north of the CBD. And back then, 650 to 680,000 was not bad for a good nick of real estate. Freestanding that too, right? Strathpine's the north example. There's an amazing example which has actually exceeded a lot of people's expectations on the south side. So there's a really neat suburb which we were talking about on a podcast, I think towards November last year, if I'm not wrong.
Sure.
But you remember that this suburb is actually quite close to a low socioeconomic zone. But you've heard of it, Rochdale. Okay, so Rochdale was also part of the 650 to 750 category. Rochdale is going for $1.2 million.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever bought that, well done.
So 1.2 mil on original purchase, 750, 160% return.
Mate, wow. What, okay.
And on original dollar invested, the rate of return is too big to calculate. It's above 585%.
Do you remember when Point Cook and stuff in Melbourne was like 450, 500?
Exactly. That's another example. So we're looking at the higher end now.
Gregory Hills, Oran Park, Marsden, Box Hill, North Kellyville.
So this is the other example. So let's look at $1 million sale in the last 3 years. Let's not be too crazy. Let's just go back 2.5 years ago. Okay.
And I'm just dropping mum and dad suburbs.
Exactly. We're looking at a suburb called North Kellyville where we did a deal for $1 million flat. $1 million flat. And that was a 600 block, a double story. Beautiful.
I don't even need the numbers. Congratulations, gentlemen. You just made over 850 to maybe $1 million more.
Yeah, so they're definitely sitting at about upwards of 750 grand within that 2-year turnaround time. And that return on investment is beyond, beyond insane. But then again, these suburbs, what is the cost of doing nothing and waiting till you have higher borrowing capacity? There's no way to measure that because you've actually just missed out on all the growth.
Look, I agree with the argument of sometimes people need to sit on the fence because they know for a fact that within the next 12 months, my income is going to substantially change.
Yep.
And I'm going to, but if you know that you are at a certain household income, be very honest with yourself and ask yourself, really, if my income changes next year, I get a new contract, new job, new client, if you own a business, how much, unless you're going to change your income by 50, 60, 70% a year increase, it's not going to happen, right? And like you said, you're so much more better off. At every price point, there is a growth property.
Yes, exactly.
Right? But what that means in the location means you should not limit yourself with that. Like Adelaide, for example, was a pocket where the median house price was like your 400s, 450s. It's sitting at 600, 650.
And Adelaide's a market where it's so diverse right now. You've got growth pockets, but at the same time, you also have markets in Adelaide that are
people should not sleep on Adelaide right now because Adelaide is going to surprise the shit out of everyone. It's performed neck and neck with Sydney.
There is 3 cities in 2022 and 2023 that are going to be on every professional investor's horizon. Melbourne, Adelaide.
You can't sleep on Melbourne.
Yeah. Melbourne.
You can't sleep on Melbourne.
Adelaide and Perth. Perth is going to do some very exciting things.
Mate, I like
And I've
Perth
heard-
for cash flow.
And I've heard a few things from Cashflow, and a couple of the boys from the Big Boys Club have already gone up to Perth, and they've started deploying some cash.
Capital allocation. Now, speaking of some cash flow plays, mate, people have lots of ideas around cash flow. And we'll just keep it super simple because for everyone to build an NDIS or a duplex, they need higher deposits. The valuations are everywhere here and there when it comes. But say mum and dad who are looking at, again, that $450,000, $500,000 mark example, or looking at that 600, 700 example, looking at like even as recent as someone just did a 1.4-ish dual key in Sydney, you know? So talk us through a little bit of a cash flow play. What are people looking at? What is actually possible in the market? Is there still cash flow at such low interest rates?
Yeah, so actually cash flow is better at really low interest rates, which is a good thing. If the interest rates go up, that's when cash flow tends to slowly become a bit of a challenge. The interesting thing that people are looking for when buying cash flow properties is all wrong. When I say it's all wrong, you and I both know this really well, right? A lot of the guys that are doing cash flow positive property, they start to look for things like, what is my proximity to the station? What is the demographic of people that are moving into the suburb? Am I attracting high income earners, so forth, so on? Those are all things that form part of a framework when you're buying properties for growth. So people get it twisted sometimes. They try and replicate what they're looking for in a growth suburb, and they try and duplicate it with cash flow results. It doesn't actually work. The only thing that you need to be focusing on for
I was going to give a very nasty example.
do it.
Right.
You've held back on two.
I'll tell you what, right? If you make bank, you're not living in a cash flow property. You're not going to live in someone's granny flat. You're not going to be living in one half of a duplex. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to attract.
Unless it's one half of a point piper duplex.
Mate, there might not be. If there's an example, please prove me wrong in the comments. I'll buy one.
There's many like split
semis.
No, like semi. No.
But you know what I mean? Like the chances of like a very high income earner who living in a dual key duplex property in, I don't know, Seven Hills or Campbelltown is very unlikely unless, you know, they want to be under the radar.
Yeah, well, we do have a few really hardworking clients that earn really well, that have really big portfolios that, yes, rent in not so nice locations, but the only reason they're doing that, they're far and few. The only reason they're doing that is because they're just delaying the gratification. So they're funnily enough doing
investing.
the right thing. So they're actually investing.
Oh yeah.
So these are like, I've got these clients that one of them is a government worker and the wife's a nurse, and they both as a family earn about $280,000 a year. Really hard workers. Now, they haven't bought anything for themselves personally.
That's commitment.
But they've got 4 investment properties already.
Shout out to that's that winner mindset.
Exactly. So in terms of delayed gratifications there, but then again, if we knock on every other door in that suburb, they're just bums, let's be honest.
Yep. Mate, I've always said, my old man always said this to me. He said, Kesh, remember, businesses buy houses, houses don't buy businesses. So when you're doing anything first, if I told you, Sean, I'm starting a business today, but I go get the Lambo first, I get the best iMac first, and you go, you don't even have one client. What are you doing?
Well, it'll be great because if you had seed capital of like, 10 million to start the business, that's great. You can do those things.
You run out very quickly. But similarly, when it comes to real estate, people often absorb a large chunk of their money into a home they're actually going to live in instead of actually figuring out, how can I have some source of income? How can I have tax effective debt in the marketplace before I go and get my dream home? And I look at some people today in Sydney, we're all from Sydney, where they have $1 million+ mortgage living in a C-class suburb, according to me, that are very unhappy. They don't have the schools they want. Their kids, they're not close to work. They're not close to things they'd like to do. And they're stuck. They're stuck versus these same people could have deployed the same amount of capital, created passive income, got 30, 40, 50% back in their tax, and actually rented it in a much nicer area for the fraction of the price, where the schools are there, where the parks are there, where the lifestyle, where the jobs are there, So I don't think that you don't need to compromise. I think people have it really wrong. Me personally, I appreciate that hustle where they are delaying gratification. They're building out a asset base for themselves that they can actually be free with. Because I'll tell you what, you can live in a $10 million house, and if you have a $9 million mortgage, you're a slave.
Of course.
But if you've got 10 million in investments, got 9 million in investment debt, you're playing. You're on the monopoly table.
But I mean, delayed gratification is great, right? But like, let's say you reach a certain level of success. Like, I'm not here trying to badmouth Tag Heuers or anything, Tag Heuer watches, right? Let's say you got one as a gift tomorrow. You'll be really grateful for it. You'll be appreciative. You'll be like, that's really sweet. Whoever gave it to me, right?
Come.
But you're not going to go out and get yourself one of those right now just because you can.
No.
You've reached the level where once you tick a certain amount of boxes, you have to go for next level things, like whether it's a Daytona, whether it's an Audemars Piguet.
I love me a Daytona.
Oh, let's get that. Let's give us a cheer for that Daytona. So you keep playing it based on what level you're at, and we've done this episode in the past, which is so relevant. There's levels to this game.
There is levels.
People don't know that, and if you haven't seen the episode of Levels to the Game, watch it here or there or
Ryan's
wherever.
just like, oh my god, I don't want to tag myself.
Producer, please, just everywhere. Watch that game. Watch that episode, Levels to the Game.
100%. Now, wrapping this up, guys. Sean, first of all, thank you again. I know we all have chaotic weeks. We've stopped even asking those questions because I know it's been pretty crazy in a good way.
The answer is it's always chaotic and in a good way.
In a good way. But today's episode, I really hope the audience got some value because property selection is a very important part of being an investor. Even if you're owner-occupier, you've got to really pick your properties right. The basics of properties are what can you afford? Everyone starts at a different point, whether you're starting at $500,000 or $5 million, you got to understand location. You can build any sort of house you want, but one thing you can never change about your property is the location. The third thing is design. Again, we had a little bit of a joke about Balenciaga and Louis Vuitton.
But you covered so many amazing technical points on the iPad there during the design element, which families don't actually pay too much attention to.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the best floor plan, but it's better than the previous one. And I just wanted you to think about how when you buy something, I want you to Facebook built, Google built, Apple built billion, trillion dollar businesses based on human behavior. How do you go buy real estate without considering that? It doesn't matter what the rental yield is right now. Maybe like 10%, but why is it going to increase? Why is someone going to live here for the next 20, 30 years? What is this? Is this even functional real estate? You know, things have changed. Maybe you wanted the white picket fence with an 800 meter square block. Mate, I worked 14-hour days. I don't want to mow a lawn. So it's different things.
Well, the difference is you'll be getting a crew to mow your lawn anytime you had to.
100%.
Because that's, again, leverage.
Time.
So if you spent your time mowing your lawn, the number of times I've seen clients that are on $150,000, $250,000 salaries going, oh, Sunday I've got to do the whole housework, mow the lawn, blah, blah. I'm like, wait a minute.
Get a cleaner.
Just pay for a cleaner, man. Focus
100%.
on the right business principles. Anyway.
100%. Spend time with your family and kids. And then next functionality. Like, what is today's, who are you addressing, right? There's a target audience for a movie, for a product, for alcohol, for phones. There's an audience that likes to buy $200 phones. There are people who will buy a 13 Pro Max for $2,000. And there's what sort of business do you want to be in? What sort of client? And there's no right or wrong. What are you more comfortable with? What does your budget allow you to do? And the next thing, the most important thing where I think and you covered it so well with the different examples. Do you need a growth play? Do you need a cash flow play? Or do you need a deleverage play? And what are your funds going to allow you to do? And to answer it very simply, if you are someone who struggles with servicing, struggles with putting a deposit together, you might be better off going down the cash flow play. If you're someone who's got really high income and you're someone who needs the tax deductions, but you also have heavy outgoings because you've got 2 kids in private schools or whatever, or you've got a decent mortgage, you might be better off going after the gold because that'll be better tax effective. It'll help you with your next deposit. And I know you're someone who will consistently increase your income. And deleverage plays for someone who's got substantial cash, has the risk appetite.
And already a bit of a successful portfolio as well.
Has a wealth base.
Yeah,
has
exactly.
A little bit of a wealth base. So if shit hits the fan, they know they can hold that real estate long term. Because I'll tell you what, you hold anything for 10 years in a capital city, you'll be okay. But if you tick these boxes, it'll be really, really important. Now, before we wrap up, we've got 2 minutes before we go. Sean, our rapid robins for tonight.
I'm so excited for tonight's one. Ladies and gentlemen, what is your favorite money-making or wealth-building saying? Let's go. Ooh.
I said mine. I think I'm going to repeat it. Businesses buy houses. Houses don't buy businesses.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is wonderful.
That's true.
Producer Ryan, do you have a saying that you love a lot?
Come on, producer Ryan.
Hit us with something. What's your favorite money-making or wealth-building saying? Yeah, all right. Well, mine is in life, we either make the money or we make the excuses, but we can't make both.
That's very true. Very true. Producer Ryan, I'll repeat it for you. Come on. Hey, no, that was the wrong one. Nah. Oh, that's the one. Yay.
Oh, yeah, nice. He's gone old school, technical, textbook. Don't trade your time for money. That is gold. Again, that's leverage.
That is leverage.
We have a great team.
We do. Ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I want to ask you this. Do you know your burn rate? And your burn rate is if you liquidated all your assets today, everything, liquidated all your assets, paid off all your debts, and you could not work another day in your life based on your current expenses, based on your current lifestyle, how long would you be able to look after yourself and your family? Think about that. Ladies and gentlemen, there's another episode of Friday Night Live. My name is Kesh. That's Sean. We've got producer Ryan behind the camera. Thank you again. 25th episode, and we're going to keep going.